right? So you'd want to be able to get the kids, and that's going to give you I'm trying to do like two things at once here. I got a thing that came up on my computer that said something about restarting, and I canceled it because I obviously don't want my computer to restart during the show, because the show will go out for a couple minutes, and I obviously don't want that to happen. And it's connected to the computer that would play music, so that wouldn't be good neither because it would just be silence. So anyway, hopefully that does not happen. But so I was just checking my task manager. But to get the children, and it's slowly over time thinking differently, so introducing different things. And as technology obviously got more advanced, there's more stuff they can do. And that's one of the biggest, I think, things as far as helping and advance that agenda of controlling everything and everybody. It's the technology. But that would be a whole section, essentially, of if your goal is to control everybody and everything, how do you get there? And the next generation, if you're willing to obviously start from, years and years ago and have this as a long-term plan. And I think that's obviously what has been happening. I mean, this is a long-term thing. This is not, overnight, but I think it's getting closer to their goals. So in schools, there was something that I wanted to say, and then I'm sorry, I got distracted by that message because obviously I don't want my fucking computer to shut off. So that totally threw me off there. But yeah, that's about all for I was saying that's about all for the CPS portion, even though it's going to come up, I'm sure, again. But with schools now, that's where they have the technology to do all these things that they didn't have before. Now, again, I mean, this is going on since they started public schools in the first place, which is really government babysitting. I don't understand, and I can't comprehend, really, and I honestly believe this, and I think that the government had a lot to do with the fact that both parents had to work, and they love that both parents have to work, but why a kid should be in a school all day and not with their parents, I do not get that at all. I honestly don't. And one of the things that my former co-host Pete Murtha had brought up, and I've talked about this a little before, is that you're taking a kid and putting them around a whole bunch of other kids. And yes, you have one teacher, but they're mostly around all these other kids. What do these other kids know, and what are you going to learn from being around these other kids? Obviously, kids are not, depending on where you're. I'm talking more, elementary school or the beginning of elementary school. But I guess at any point, is that, are you going to get a good example from other kids, or is it something that is going to give you intelligence or maturity or anything like that? You learn to socialize at a lower level, because that's the one thing they talk about with homeschool is, well, what about being able to socialize with other kids? Well, first of all, when it comes to socializing with other kids, I don't know why the fuck you need to socialize with other kids anyway, to be honest. Learning to socialize is important. Learning to be able to communicate is important. But why would you want to learn that from other kids? Because they don't fucking know. You know, maybe you have a genius in your class, most likely not. And I'm sorry, what I was saying, and I kind of got off topic here. Well, not really, because it's related to this. But why would you want your kid to not be around their parents till at least being a teenager? I think that kids should spend the majority of time with their parents until they're, depending on maturity, and, you know, I know girls are more mature, so maybe with girls it may be 11, depending on how mature they are, and boys maybe 12, maybe 10 or 11, maybe the same thing, something like that, that until they're, you know, I guess 13 at the most, because then they're a teenager. And I think at that point, you would have taught them all those things. And I don't know that once you're a teenager, that you should be spending all your time around your parents. Although that doesn't mean you shouldn't spend time around adults. Because going back to the point that Pete had made, is that's where you're going to learn things. That's where you're going to learn more about how to socialize or how to communicate with people or how to anything. Because in general, and I know there's some adults that you wouldn't want your kid around, so I'm talking, you know, in general. But adults have more experience and know a lot more things, again, in general. Now, I know there are things that kids know that adults don't. And there are. And I mean that in when they go to school and they know about, you know, how things, because things change. And it might be at school and things may be different than when you were a kid, and they may have to deal with things that you didn't have to deal with. And there are things that I think to just dismiss your kid and say, well, you're too young, what the fuck would you know, when they're a teenager, to dismiss what they say is bad as well. Because I think the same way you can learn something from anybody, you can learn stuff from your kid too. And so I think that it works both ways. But at the same time, I think the majority of learning that you would learn more from an adult than another kid in general. And especially at those younger years. So you want your kids to be around a bunch of other kids who knows what their parents are like and what their parents have taught them, and to be influenced and have all these social interactions and all of these things with kids the same age. Why? And based off of what? Who came up with this theory, I guess, besides the, Prussian system of learning, which was based upon creating good soldiers and creating people that wouldn't doubt the king. Besides that, who came up with this idea that you should be around kids your own age and that it's better to socialize with kids your own age? Now, I guess from the one thing or the one positive I guess I could see is the fun aspect that, they could play with other kids and have fun. Okay, fine. I'm not saying that your kids should be around the parents all the time. I'm saying that they should be around the parents more than the other kids, that they shouldn't spend however many hours a day school is now, 6 or 7, and spend a whole day around kids and then a couple hours around their parents. I think it should be the other way around. That, yeah, they should have like play dates and stuff like that and be able to be around and play with people that are on their level to have fun. But I think that they're going to learn a lot more from being around adults. And where did the whole responsibility for your kid go away and somehow end up in the hands of the government? So, as I said before, to me, it's government babysitting. That's what it is. And it's government babysitting that people are forced to pay for. I don't want to pay for other people's kids to be educated and educated in a way that they are brainwashed, because that's really what it is. I don't agree with the school curriculum. And just because I don't have a kid, why should I not have some say? And of course, now nobody has say because it's all Common Core. But would I be shut out of school board meetings or whatever? Because those kids are going to grow up and that's going to affect me. Or those kids are going to become teenagers and they may, steal my car or break in my house or something. I don't know. So I think everybody really in a community should have a say, but when it comes down to it, it's really just government babysitting. And again, who really came up with those ideas of, okay, again, besides taking the Prussian system, I know there was some, I forget his name, was called like the father of education or something, the educational system in the U.S., but they essentially created government babysitting that they extort people to pay for everybody's kids to babysit them. And that's what it is. And I don't think it's a positive thing at all. I think it's a negative thing. I think kids would learn more being with their parents, and it's their parents' fucking responsibility. Somehow it's become an acceptable thing that your kids are partially the government's responsibility. That 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever a day, that they're the government's responsibility, not yours. I don't get that. So, I really do believe until they're old enough to pretty much go out and